Good morning, gardening friends. Today is Sunday, November 19th, and it's a beautiful day. We got some rain this past week. You can see the angel's trumpets are in bloom. I counted 13 flower heads, or blossoms. Baby has come to visit. Miss Mimi is in the house. It is about 53 out here, so she wants nothing to do with going outside. I think you can see the steam on my coffee. Oh, it rained this week. We got 2.5 inches of rain. And what well needed. It still doesn't take us out of the deficit we're in, but we're thankful for every drop we get. Oh, and the big news this week is the USDA has looked over its growing zones, and I have now been bumped up. I am no longer an 8B. I am now a 9A. Fantastic. Tell me something I didn't already know. I guess Dewey did not win the election. Here you can see. So what does that mean? It really doesn't mean anything to people that are growing. It just means for sellers that they can sell different plants now. Here are some cyclamen that I bought on sale. I've got to pot them up because they're going to take the place of my pumpkins in the front yard on either side of my front porch. I've already showed you the blossom on the aspidistra. It's still in bloom. I think I'm going to put a pot of aspidistra together to bring in the house. It'll look nice on winter days. There's the red cyclamen, still doing well. And my pitcher plant. Oh, I have a little bit of strawberry begonia up there. That pot held a strawberry begonia before the pitcher plant went in it. Here you see my Golden Chalice Vine flower. Normally when the flower opens, it's white, and it gradually turns this golden color. This is about 2 days old, and it'll get a little bit darker and then eventually fall off. But I have a couple more blossoms coming yet, which is nice. I think this year I will repot that. It's been in that pot for quite a few years. And every now and then I treat it like a bonsai. Every now and then I'll pop it out of that pot, clean the roots up, shorten it a little, the root-wise, and stick it back in the pot with fresh potting soil around the sides and fertilize it good. There you can see the pansies are still in bloom. Roses are taking a little time off. I still keep my water features, try to keep them empty. That's rainwater that's in them to discourage animals from coming back here. Miss Mimi is very happy. We finally gotten ahead of the fleas. There are, happy to say, no flea infestation anymore in the house. I don't know about out back. Mimi refuses to go out. You can see the ligularia is in bloom. And the ligularia I planted last year is coming up and in bloom as well. I like to put things underneath the palms because palms are very heavy feeders, and the runoff from the fertilizer really does the things around the palms well. Over here, not much is different. Looks like I have a flower stalk coming. I think that's just an old one on this palm, Indo palm. Oh my. I guess the animals are still coming through here. Well, I hope it caught whatever it was chasing. But I can see from this damage, which is a little bit much, that we're going to get out the have-a-heart trap and catch that sucker and relocate him elsewhere. I have my layers of toleration. And that animal has tipped the scales against itself. Here you can see the flowers on this pink sasanqua, or camellia. Sasanqua is just a type of camellia. I used to have 3 large bushes of this, and it was kind of like a little covered area around this bench. But when I had some tree work done, they were all cut to the ground so trucks could drive over the tops of them. And that's the only one that came back. Here you can see the pollinators are at work on the fatsia. Apparently, flies like it. There you can see, I don't know if you can see the bee activity, but you can see the 2 inflorescences on the Canary Island date palm. And hopefully you can see the bees around them, because there's a whole bunch of activity going around. This particular, the date palm, got 5 pounds of fertilizer by itself. Hence you see the lush green growth on the ginger plants. Oh, the Knockout Rose is in full sun. That's the new one that I got this year. It has lost its sickly green look. Got a bunch of new growth coming over here. Looks like it caught fine. Kumquats are ripe, which is good because I'm planning on making my, actually probably make it later today, my kumquat cranberry sauce. One of y'all had mentioned in a comment that you can make kumquat marmalade. I've never tried. I've made satsuma marmalade, but when I looked up the recipe online, I saw different ways to make it, and one thing I did like when I saw that is they cut the kumquats into little discs. I usually would cut them in half for my cranberry sauce, but I think I'm going to cut them into little discs today. Looks a little more appetizing, a little less, if you're not into kumquats, it's a little less to bite when you cut them into small discs as opposed to just cutting them in half. You do have to cut them, I have to cut them in half because they do have seeds, so you kind of have to pick the seeds out, but they're meant to be eaten whole, skin and all. Back in here, all is looking well. The sun is shining just perfectly on this chamaecyparis. And I did notice that I've got some new growth on my Beaufort holly. Hopefully it'll make it through the winter. Not much on this particular branch, but I had a huge hedge of Beaufort holly here when I bought the house, and I cut it back twice to the ground. In fact, there's a stump of an old Beaufort holly, and that was cut down about 5 or 6 years ago, and trust me, you could take an axe to that stump and it's still as hard as it was the day that I cut it down. It finally stopped sprouting after about 4 years. There you can see the bottle brush in the sun. That should become a beautifully shaped bush in future now that the loquat was taken out this last year. So I plan on just letting it get probably about 6 foot tall. Let it do its own thing. And I'm going to try and keep the daturas there. I'll take seeds because they won't come back once when frost hits them, but you can see here seed coming, another pod over there. Prickly apple. And I'll save some seed, which is what this was. That was all started from a seed that happened to fall in its pot that I had it on the deck last year. And rather than weed it out and kill it, I saved it and planted it there. Now the angel's trumpets, on the other hand, they will die back to the ground, but they will come back. So you can take cuttings. This was prime for taking a cutting right here. What I do is I just take about a foot-long cutting, stick it in some water, and leave it there. It'll take about a week or two. You'll start to see some root growth. And then what you want to do is pot it up and keep the potting soil moist for the first couple of weeks, and then eventually let it dry out. One thing not a lot of people realize is when you root things in water, water roots are different than land roots. So you do want it to establish good ground roots. Everything looks very green today. I haven't been really doing a lot of work outside. Because of the rains this week, I've been painting. I painted a hallway red and the wainscoting of my dining room green. Came out very nice. Little did I realize red takes 4 coats, but eventually it looks good. Looked good. Is good. Here you can see the bougainvillea is really coming back nicely. This one gets afternoon sun. So apparently they like afternoon sun because there's one that gets morning sun and it's not in bloom. Here you can see some angel's trumpet flowers. Not angel's trumpet, what am I talking about? Paper white flowers ready to bloom. Gara is still got its little flowers here and there. In here, pay no attention to the spider web. I don't get rid of them out here because I don't really spend time out here. And I figure if they're catching bugs from my plants, it's better than spraying. So I just let them be. There's the paper whites. I'm going to bring them in the house this week. And I did plant up 2 of my red lion, as in like the animal, amaryllis, last week. Need to water everything in here. It's very, very dry, I see, because of the sun. Here is my iachromas. It looks like 2 died, but 2 are coming. And if I water them, they won't be wilting anymore. And this is the amaryllis from 4 Christmases ago. And these are the flowers from last year. But it looks like it's getting new red flowers at the top on the new leaves. So it may bloom again this Christmas. So it really likes this spot. Let's see what else is going on up in here. Not really much else. This is one of the reasons I bought these half price at Lowe's. The Japanese land orchids or ground orchids. And I don't like to bring them in with my houseplants until I've kind of put them out here for a while. I did have an outbreak of, what do you call it? Dirt flies. There's gnats, the little gnats that live in the ground here. And in any event, I have a insecticide that you sprinkle on top of the plant. So I did that out here. And lots of stuff died in those 2 plants. So you got to be careful when you introduce new plants to your, especially if you bring them inside, to see what pests they may have with them. Fungus gnats. I couldn't think of the name of them fast enough. You can buy a sprinkle-on insecticide for fungus gnats, and it works really well. Let's see. Mandevilla is doing nicely. I may bring that inside. It's in a small enough pot. I may put it in the garage. The bananas, you can see I haven't really touched them. I'm just letting them do their own thing now in the fall. And brown is a color, so I'm just letting them color up. I'll tell you what, this bottle tree has, I found the perfect spot for it because my dining room window is there and it looks out on that vibrant blue, and when the sun hits it, it's very colorful. Should have done that years ago. Coleus is coming back. I have been eating more of my satsumas, and some of them are a little pithy. I guess because of the drought we have this year, some of them are a little on the dry side. Very tasty, but a little on the dry side. Out front, white dove camellia, sasanqua, still doing well. Sasanquas are camellias, but not all camellias are sasanquas. Here, there's not much new since last week. The flowers really do attract bees on this Thai basil. And I've left the little seeds on that lantana. I did look it up, and no part of the lantana is edible. So it really doesn't belong in my potager, but it's there, and I'm sticking to it. Here you can see the pansies are still doing well in the front. This little circular garden looks especially nice. That's the case of if you don't weed whack your own gardens, this is what happens. Originally, I had a very tight circle around the mailbox, but you can see the way the cactus has grown, and the guys that do the weed whacking for me, of course it is inconvenient. The cactus does have some little minor, minuscule thorns, but thorns nonetheless, so gradually they widened the bed and widened the bed. And rather than just have dirt there, I planted it up with flowers. These bananas are looking well. These are the pumpkins that are going to be replaced with the white cyclamen. I'm going to leave them till Thanksgiving, and I may make a pumpkin pie out of them. I was a little disheartened. I'm not a big fan of pumpkin pies, but I've got the pumpkin. I did do a little research on pumpkin pie filling and found that they kind of do lie to you. It's really a squash pie filling. It still tastes the same, doesn't change any, but it's not necessarily what we consider pumpkins. There you can see the still here, cassia. It will die back to the ground when frost comes. Let's see what else is going on here. Not really much since last week. Here it's just kind of sit back and wait for the camellias to start blooming. You can smell the loquats because they're still, when the sun hits them especially, they seem to give off a lot of scent. So there you have it. I hope you all have a good Thanksgiving. I've got a ham and a turkey in the freezer, and I'm going to be taking them out shortly. Having a couple of friends over. P.S. as an aside, don't ever plan on painting your dining room right before Thanksgiving. I won't ever be doing that again, but I did finally get it finished. So I hope you all have a good week. a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next time.